which will lead us to a discussion of what the Mountain Music Duo has been doing, as one of the composers they love is on this program at Trinity. And then we'll also note that Dr. Richard Kogan is doing one of his shows. This one's called The Mind and Music of George Gershwin, coming up Thursday, and we'll hear a little excerpt from this last thing he did, which is about Chopin. But first to the Second Tuesdays at Trinity series, which will involve baritone Timothy Kennedy and pianist Marcia Marchese. That's coming up tomorrow. And they dropped by our performance studio for a little preview of what's going on. Here's what Tim had to say.
Well, I'm really excited about doing this concert because I got to choose some pieces that are near and dear to my heart. Some great pieces by Ravel, the Don Quixote set that he wrote for a movie score but never actually got used. Also doing some pieces from the bel canto composers Donizetti and Bellini. I'm doing pieces by an Austrian-born composer who was then forced out of Germany during the Nazi regime, Hans Eisler, who then became an American and was writing about his homeland and watching it from afar being destroyed by who he claims evil people, of course. And then some really beautiful pieces by Jerome Kern, some other musical theater composers and jazz composers as well, George Gershwin. So it's a really varied program, and I think it'll really appeal to a large audience.
That's Timothy Kennedy, the baritone, along with pianist Marcia Marchese, who will be appearing tomorrow at this Second Tuesdays at Trinity series at Trinity Presbyterian Church in Arvada on 84th. While here, they gave us a little preview of what's on that program.
The first movement from the Don Quixote set by Maurice Ravel, it's called Chanson Romanesque. This set he wrote for a soundtrack for a movie in the early 1900s. It was a competition, and he submitted to the competition, but unfortunately he was a day late submitting for the competition, and the piece never got used. The first movement talks about his love, Dulcinea, who he has loved from afar, and is telling her that if she doesn't like the earth's turning, that he would stop it for her. If she didn't like the stars in the sky, that he would get rid of them for her. And then if she decided after that she actually missed them, he'd put them back for her as well. But if she ever said that his love was not good enough for her, that would be the death of him, and it would destroy him.
Recorded in our performance studio, Timothy Kennedy, baritone, with Marcia Marchese, the pianist, for the first movement, Chanson Romanesque from Don Quixote, Dulcinea by Maurice Ravel. He'll be doing the entire cycle on their program Tomorrow, as part of the second Tuesday series at Trinity Presbyterian in Arvada, I think I said it was on 84th. It's actually off 84th on Vance. But if you're at 84th, you'll see it. It's a pretty prominent building. Pianist Marcia Marchese is a composer in her own right and is represented on this program. I asked her to talk about her piece, which was composed in 1989.
It's called Un Navio Negreiro, which actually translates into the slave ship. And it's an epic poem by one of the most famous Brazilian poets. And it was right around the time where they were talking, they had a lot of abolitionist stuff going on and try to, get rid of slavery. And so that was a very influential poem back then. And it's very beautiful. And we're doing 2 pieces out of the 5 pieces in the cycle.
That's pianist and composer Marcia Marchese, whose work is represented on this program, with Timothy Kennedy, baritone. She's the pianist. And the second Tuesday series at Trinity Presbyterian Church on Vance Street in Arvada. That's tomorrow night at 7:30. Okay, watch me now. We're going to turn. Speaking of Marcia Marchese, she has written music for the Mountain Music Duo. And that is guitarist James Klein and oboist Tenley Williams. In fact, they recorded this at our performance studio and talked with our own David Rutherford, all 3 of them, about this work called Ciranda.
I heard a piece of Marcia's, and then James had also heard several pieces, and we just always really liked her music. It always had a great character that we thought would lend itself well to our ensemble. So at that point, it is an unusual instrumentation, so we are always looking for new music, and she was one of the first people that we went to say, hey, can you write some music for our instrumentation?
And you said, absolutely not, I can't stand that.
No, it was great, because I had heard them play before, and, it's great to write music for people that you've heard before, so you know what they can do. So, yeah, no, in a way, it was awesome. I was really happy when they contacted me, and it was just a great project to work on.
It's great to be able to consult with the composer as well during the process of the piece, composing it and then rehearsing it later on. It's great to be able to go back to her and say, well, this doesn't work so well. I really like this. Can you write something
and working with the
like
musicians.
This?
Exactly.
Yeah. So was there a lot of back and forth with this piece?
There's a little bit.
With guitar, yeah.
I think guitar is, for a lot of composers, kind of a challenge.
Generally, yeah.
To write for it. Unless you're a guitarist yourself, sometimes you don't know exactly how to approach or what to do or what works.
I had written some guitar music before, and you have some ballpark things that you kind of go for when you're writing for guitar, and then I like to work closely with the guitarist, so any fine-tuning that needs to be done after that, it's voicing and stuff like that.
You'll look at it initially and you'll say, well, no, you'll have to rework this can't be done. But then you sit down and you practice with it for a little while, and you work on it for a little while, and you say, oh, yes, it can be done.
The piece, when I was thinking about what I was going to write for them, and that was nice for me because they said, well, you can write anything. And I said, oh, all right, well, that narrows it down. So started thinking about the combination of instruments that I was going to be working with, and the guitar is a very typical and very beloved Brazilian instrument for Brazilian music, and so I started having all these ideas about incorporating a little bit of that, and essentially what this ended up being were 3 movements where these are sort of like childhood things, so childhood memories and things like that. And so Ciranda's the first one, is basically like a game for kids, rounds, and so I tried to put a little bit of that in the music. The second movement is essentially a serenade, gazing at stars, contando estrelas, and then the last one, again, it's a children's game, hide and seek. So lots of very fast notes here for the oboe and the guitar, where they're like running after each other, basically. So it's my version of a children's suite, if you will.
That's composer Marcia Marchese in conversation with our own David Rutherford, talking about her piece Ciranda. And before that, we also heard from the Mountain Music Duo. That's Tenley Williams oboe and James Klein guitar, who stopped by our KVOD performance studio for a performance of the Marchese work, Ciranda.